Here's everything you could do with the Pale Garden biome in Minecraft, starting with a cursor tracker. Now, the creaking might seem useless, but it actually enables a redstone contraption that used to be completely impossible. By tracking the creaking in a series of water chambers and tripwires, you can create a rudimentary eye tracker in vanilla Minecraft. And when not being observed, the creaking will jump and trigger our tripwires, allowing us to then power redstone depending on where exactly you look. And you can even hook this up to redstone lamps to make a display board. What does the Ancient City have to do with the Pale Garden? Well, the creaking is an invincible mob, and that means it's immune to any damage, even the laser from a warden. So if you hear a warden approaching, try spawning a creaking and then use it as bait. The warden might get bored with it after a while, but until then, you'll be able to safely roam the Ancient City, and I'd rather have the creaking chase me than the warden. Just saying. Resin is a new item created by the Creaking Heart, and whenever the player hits a creaking, it generates resin on the nearby wood, with a cooldown of 5 seconds, which makes automation pretty easy. Set up a fence like this around some creaking hearts, and you want a wall of pale wood in front of the hearts attached to a piston pusher on each end of the wall. This lets us make a simple farm that generates resin just by swinging a sword, and then a simple button press will trigger the pistons and drop the resin on the floor. Just remember to place the hoppers, otherwise you're gonna have to jump in there yourself. Minecraft sometimes feels like a never-ending quest for XP, and luckily the Pale Garden adds a new powerful way to feed our addiction. See, when you smelt resin into resin bricks, the furnace collects 0.1 XP, which might sound small, but it's equivalent to kelp. And just like kelp, resin can be collected automatically in the background. So for very little effort, we can accumulate XP banks in our furnaces. So never again do you have to go to the end dimension and stab Enderman for an hour, just to repair your mending tools. Although it only functions at night, the Creaking Heart functions as a pretty elegant proximity sensor. Now, we've had pufferfish sensors and skulk sensors, but Creaking Hearts with a comparator will detect the distance a creaking gets from its original Creaking Heart. And the other methods that we talked about have nowhere near that level of precision. And as for what it could be used for, I'll leave it to you. I mean, look at all the crazy stuff the redstone community's already done with this thing. I'm sure they'll think of something. Not many mobs can be created with just the flick of a lever, and previously we could only do this with golems, but even those don't do what we want them to do. So the Creaking Heart is a perfect way to create a mob switch, which is that if we have enough hostile mobs in an area, no other hostile mobs will generate because we filled up the mob cap. And since the heart requires a log on top of it in order to activate, if we were to push or pull a log with redstone, we'll be able to control when the creaking gets created. And so if we combine that with several hundred Creaking Hearts, hundreds of mobs could be created in an instant, and since they count as hostile mobs, that'll both disable hostile mob spawning and create a lot of lag as well. But depending on who you ask, that could also be a positive. For the most part, creakings only interact with players, but one of the exceptions are the illager mobs. See, creakings are the only mobs that will scare illagers, much like how a cat can scare creepers. So if you manage to trap some creakings at key points, you can use them to protect your area from pillager patrols or even raids. You'd think the Vindicator would be just fine, but I don't think they know how to use their axes. If for some reason you can't craft a daylight sensor, then Creaking Hearts are a solid method of detecting day and night. See, an observer can detect whenever a Creaking Heart becomes active. So combine that observer with a copper bulb and a comparator, and you've got yourself a makeshift daylight sensor. The only difference being that this sensor tries to beat you with a plank of wood, which according to some might be a deal breaker. If you've made a normal moss farm, you'll know how to do this. See, pale moss is a variant of the normal, and it grows in the same way. So to farm it, we make a stone generator, and then make sure to have a dispenser pointing into an extra pale moss block. So then when you time your pistons to push new stone after each dispenser activation, the pale moss block will get broken by the piston push and quickly replaced with even more stone. Then hook up some water and hoppers to collect the drops, and as long as you'll feed more bone meal into the dispenser, you'll have yourself a steady flow of the stuff to garden with your heart's desire. Building a castle is a favorite pastime of every survival Minecraft player, but what's a castle without a ruler? And so the creaking is the perfect mob to defend your fortress. So try placing some defensive Creaking Hearts around your base. Any creakings that it generate will lock onto nearby players, and you can even hide the Creaking Heart behind walls. Just imagine, as the sun sets, pulling a lever and then releasing all of your guards. It might not be the most comfortable way to sleep, but at least you don't have to deal with any unwanted guests. Now that we know that we can use observers to detect Creaking Heart activations, how about hooking them up to some of your other redstone contraptions? And that way the Creaking Night Shift can deploy automatically without having to use a lever. And you can also have it open and close certain doors only when the creakings are activated. The amount of flexibility in their activation is actually pretty high, and there aren't many redstone sources that'll give out an output as fluid or as smart as the Creaking Heart. At the very least, it gives you a pretty cool secret base. If all the Pokemon mods in reason Minecraft has taught us anything, it's that Minecraft players love to have portable armies that they can carry around in their inventory. Now, the closest we've ever had that in vanilla was golems or the Wither, but the Creaking gives us a new middle ground. See, wherever you go, you can bring around some Creaking hearts and pale wood. So then, if you ever need an emergency bodyguard, or you just want to trap your friend's base with tree demons, they're always going to have your back. All for a simple cost of just 2 slots in your ender chest too. Sometimes you happen to build a giant underground labyrinth for the Mad King Minos so you have nothing to fill it with. So the Creakings are the perfect addition to any maze. Think about it, you'll hear noises through the walls as they creep closer, and slowly, as you hope to reach the end, the Creakings gather around you, until finally, you've run out of time. Everyone loves mazes, that much is true, but I guarantee your friend will love them all that much more if you filled them up with complete terror. Whenever you hit a Creaking, a bunch of directional particles point towards the heart, and of course, this makes resin, and it also lets you track down and stop the Creaking. But it also lets us hold a hot and cold minigame for a treasure hunt. So by using a Creaking heart near where you've hidden the secret stash, the location can only become revealed by confronting the Creaking directly. And of course, it'd be more hidden if we just never placed one in the first place, but where's the fun in that? There's a funny little interaction with the Creaking involving carved pumpkins. Now, opposite to the Enderman, whenever you wear one of these, the Creaking will always aggro onto you, even if you never look directly at it. And did you know the Curse of Binding can be applied to pumpkins? And did you also know that those same pumpkins can be applied with a dispenser? That's right, we can trap your friends. Since with both the pumpkin and the Creaking heart being activated by redstone, we can automate a trap that permanently aggroes an invincible Creaking onto your closest friends. Seeing a pale garden is sort of like an omen, and when you find one, you know it's filled with danger. This makes them the perfect way to conduct psychological warfare. Plant an artificial pale garden outside of someone's base. Now, the Creaking hearts don't generate naturally with saplings, so you'll have to fill the trees yourself. And as long as you don't put one inside of every tree, people will never know which trees are connected to a Creaking, and which ones aren't. Which creates a scenario where even just seeing a pale oak tree will get them wondering about what's actually going to attack them. And while that might constitute a breach in the Geneva Convention, I don't know if they have jurisdiction over Minecraft. These eye blossoms are new flowers that will close during the day and open at night. And for whatever reason, these flowers will poison any bee that tries to pollinate an open eye blossom, meaning you could use this for some devious crimes. Find your friend's innocent bee farm, ideally one that's built inside of the nether of the end, so that way the bees will come out of their hive regardless of the night cycle, and then sneak in and replace all the flowers in the bee farm with eye blossoms. They'll be poisoned, and the only witnesses will be the eye blossoms themselves, watching with glowing eyes. Don't worry though, they're not gonna snitch on you. A lot of Minecraft players are always talking about making Minecraft more like Terraria. Well, luckily, Mojang threw them a bone and added the spooky armor. Sorta. If you get your hands on a resin brick from the Pale Garden, you can use it as a bright orange armor trim, which combined with netherite armor, gives us a whole new Halloween color scheme. Which does make you wonder if the update was supposed to be a Halloween drop instead of a winter drop, but the new trims are a welcome thing regardless. The new resin is extremely versatile. Just like Glow Lichen, you can place it over any block to create new designs. And this effectively doubles the amount of building blocks that are available in Minecraft. Like the resin on leaves can look like a unique orange berry, or the resin on the ground makes it look as if the bee nest is dripping honey. I mean, not every combination is going to be a winner, but hey, this might be the closest that we're ever going to get to a new ore for a while. And we'll take that as we get it. The new resin bricks are polarizing. They're a very bright orange, and a very unique brick design that doesn't line up with stone bricks. So what could they possibly be used for? Well, it might not fit in the Pale Garden, but maybe in the Mushroom Kingdom. And for my money, the resin bricks are the absolute perfect block for making a Mario castle. And you can even add in some turtle eggs if you want to get the thrill of stomping on Koopas. There's something about a willow tree that just calls out to people. They have a unique way about them that just asks to be built in Minecraft. And luckily, we now have the perfect blocks to do just that. The pale oak leaves are just the right shade of pastiness, and pale hanging moss helps add a drooping quality to the leaves, so much of the Mojang themselves have even said that the willow trees were an inspiration for the pale oak's design. And I for one can't wait to build the perfect tree for crashing my flying car into. When moss was added to Minecraft, it opened up several doors for building. The new pale moss blocks might do something similar. I mean, they already help out the gradient from stone to regular moss, but the pale moss carpets have a distinctly useful property. See, by bone mealing these near a wall, the carpet will extend its texture up to the side of the block. And this has an added layer of detail with no extra blocks or large gradients. So expect to see a lot of overgrown ruins when you see these. And considering someone's already recreated Bloodborne inside of Minecraft, they're either going to be really happy when they see this, or really mad that it didn't come out sooner. Not sure which. Cottagecore is a well-established style of Minecraft building, and Pinterest boards have never been the same since. Fortunately, the cozy enthusiasts now have a brand new toy, pale oak wood. And since pale oak is the counterpart to dark oak, and contains a complete set of white building blocks, picket fences and other related build techniques will be far more accessible. Which I just find it hilarious that the biggest addition to cozy building is found in Minecraft's new horror biome. Sorry for all those cozy builders who are gonna have to go find this. You can do this, I believe in you. Whenever Mojang adds a new mob to the game, one of our favorite things to do is figure out how to kill it. And unfortunately, the Creaking is immortal, so the next best thing, of course, is to make a shooting gallery. See, the Creaking makes for a pretty good arrow detector. Just like with our sword, Creakings will try to generate resin whenever it's shot by the bow. So if we hook up observers in an isolated spot next to the heart, we can wirelessly detect a Creaking being shot, even as it's moved around in a minecart. Now, some people might question the desire to turn a nature's spirit into a shooting game, but geniuses are never understood in their time. Mojang's been experimenting a lot recently. With the release of the Pale Garden, we'll also be getting access to ambient sounds controlled by blocks. For example, placing a Creaking heart will occasionally emit a sound like creaking wood, and this is perfect for building a rickety old mansion or a decaying pirate ship that's shaking with every footstep. And prior to this, the closest that we had to do was the lava popping, water streams, or the screams coming out of sponge blocks. You ever feel like someone's watching us? Well, that's probably just Petey or the Pale Garden. So these eye blossoms, similar to glow squids, will appear bright even in the deep dark. And fitting in with their name, they'll take on the look of peering eyes looking right at you. So a fun little build detail could be spreading eye blossoms into your local forests, or even placing a few of these in surface caves. And it can make it look like someone is hiding deep within, watching your every move.
And with that, folks, YouTube thinks that you might like this video, so see if they're right and have a good one, alright?